Treeline review for this panel on what does it take to start an ultralight gear brand. My name is Liz Snorkel Thomas. I'm co-founder of Treeline Review. We build welcoming and obsessively researched outdoor gear stories that focus on buying right the first time and being better stewards of the planet. And one thing that makes us a little bit different is that we're real people, as you can see, and that makes us a little bit different than other gear reviews in that we're not ChatGPT, we're not bots, we're founded by thru hikers, and that's why we're so excited about this event, is because the brands that you're going to hear from today are real people too. This is part of a mostly monthly series with Garage Grown Gear featuring ultralight gear brands. If you have any questions during the event, there will be time at the end of today's webinar to answer questions from the panelists, and you can drop it either in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll be sure to have that be part of the session as well. So thank you so much for joining, and without further ado, I welcome Lloyd Vogel. Oh, and I use she, her pronouns as well. I forgot to mention that earlier. All right, Lloyd, take it away.
Thanks, Liz. While also not an AI bot, sometimes I do wish I had some of the automated features that AI bots come with. Lloyd, co-founder and CEO of Garage Grown Gear. I use he, him pronouns. And just really excited for this conversation that we've got planned this evening. And excited for our second Garage Grown Treeline review panel. And tonight we'll be diving into the question, what does it take to start a cottage gear company? So I figured I should give a little context to even what cottage means, because it is a little bit of I don't know, a lot of people have definitions for it. And while I'm not going to pretend to have any type of unilateral definition that will appease everyone, I'm going to quote myself on something I wrote a little while ago that I think stands by kind of how I view a cottage company, and feel free to interpret it a bit. But a cottage company is one whose business operations, so from manufacturing and shipping, customer service, are largely handled by the person or people who started the company. So if there are others involved, it's usually a pretty small team that often consists of family members, friends, or close community connections. For many cottage company founders, it starts off as a part-time source of income and kind of grows from there. Typically based in a spare bedroom, garage, or workshop, their manufacturing is often small scale, often customizable, largely done by hand, and uses their own designs, or in the case of Martha, recipes. And cottage companies are innovative, approachable, as obviously everyone here is being approached in this, and generally started by folks inspired to make their gear through their own experiences in the outdoors, which is pretty unique. That's just the definition that I usually use for it. There's a lot of discussions kind of around what cottage means, but we'll kind of limit it to that for this evening. But now that we've kind of got that definition out of the way, I'd love to meet our brand founders and panelists for the evening. So I'd love it if you all could go around and tell us your name, your pronouns, the company that you run, as well as what got you into the outdoors to begin with.
Okay, hi, I'm Ray from Common Gear. My pronouns are he, him. And I mean, I began just making gear for myself that I wanted and I couldn't find on the market. And I sent a few pieces to Lloyd, like around Christmas time. And he placed an order. And so I had to figure out a way to make a lot of gear. And that's kind of the origin story of Common Gear. It was almost an accident. And I'm very grateful to Lloyd and Garage Grown Gear for getting the ball rolling.
Hi all, I'm Marta Diaz. I use she, her, ella pronouns, and I'm the founder of Itacate, which is a brand of Latin backpacking food. So you may have seen some of these, probably sold out. We just had a production run yesterday, so we'll be back in stock soon at Garage Grown Gear. And yeah, I guess what inspired me to become outdoorsy or to like take part in the outdoors was my immigration story. So I came to the US with my family in 95, and going outdoors was a way to spend our weekends in an inexpensive way, right? And in a way to get to know our new home. And that kind of like opened the next door and the next door. And here I am today.
My name is Dan, pronouns he, him. I'm the founder of Onda, and I make ultralight eco-friendly shelters to venture deeper into the outdoors. What really got me into backpacking was in 2018. Well, I guess in 2017, my wife and I watched a documentary, and I checked, and it's still on YouTube. It's called Mile, Mile and a Half, and it's about the John Muir Trail. So we decided we were going to hike the John Muir Trail and had zero backpacking experience. So we went on that trip. Most of our gear was like car camping gear. My pack weighed 50 pounds. Like, I didn't think I was going to survive past day two. But we finished it. And then since then, I've just like gone deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And now I'm making my own gear, and started a company. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Hi, I'm Jen Lufborough, she, her, Alpine Fit, based here in Anchorage, Alaska. We make backpacking and hiking shirts, base layers, bushwhacking leggings, and packable lightweight hats, headbands, and neck gaiters. Manufacturing right here in Alaska, and made in USA anti-odor fabrics. How I first got into the outdoors was definitely as a kid. My grandparents had a little off-grid cabin up north in Canada, in Ontario, up north, like tiny little cabin on a little one of those beautiful pristine little lakes that was glass calm in the morning with the beautiful perfect reflections of the sunrise over the forest. And I think that was just it. I was hooked forever, and probably I'm always in pursuit of those like pristine ethereal experiences, no matter which type of adventure outdoors. So fast forward, the mountains, I'm from Ontario, Canada originally. The mountains called me west, and then eventually far north. I met someone from Alaska, started venturing up here, and got into longer distance and more backcountry type adventures, and just love all kinds of adventure on foot, pedal, paddle, ski. And Alpine Fit was kind of born from the need for this like super versatile kit that you can wear all day, every day for multi-day, week, month type trips.
Well, I definitely am jealous of that cabin. It sounds pretty ideal, and just very much impressed with all of you and what you've done with your brands. So thanks for introducing yourselves. And yeah, kind of the first question is just kicking it off. I think some of you touched on this just a little bit, but yeah, what was the inspiration for you for starting a Cottage brand? And did you have a kind of an aha moment at all for kind of knowing that what you make now was something that you needed to really bring into the market?
Well, I would say it was a slow aha. It was just like, I love nerding out about packing for trips. If it's like backpacking, like the international travel kind of backpacking, or the hiking kind of backpacking, or I've done like 3-week kayak expedition type trips in Alaska, point to point, self-supported. I've always loved the packing part of it, and I just kind of noticed that you're always boiling it down to that essential type of gear that you need for it. And then of course you start thinking, well, what's the perfect features to have in those essential pieces of gear? And I worked for a couple of other like clothing and mostly women's outdoor and activewear clothing brands, and realized like fitting body shapes is also a thing, because a product could be cool, but then it might fit some people's bodies and not other people's bodies. So trying to think of like, what are these kit essentials? I think it came to me on like a kayaking trip, but definitely also in other packing things. But like, what are these essentials, and what's the point of making them? You got to make them fit more people. So we have fit options for body shapes and anti-odor fabrics, and we only make things that are super versatile and can literally be worn all day, sweaty, in camp, sleep in it, repeat.
Let's see what inspired me. So I was doing my own research for a PCT through attempt in 21. And a lot of the Cottage gear that I was finding that I was interested in was often not available, just because they just had long lead times. And especially as you get closer to like peak hiking season, the lead times just keep growing and growing to where like essentially you're like would be using that piece of gear the next season. And so I was like, wow, like there's like a booming like demand in this niche. And now that I have a much deeper understanding and like a peek behind the curtain of like how to run a small business, I'm like, oh, like I get it. Like it's really hard to like forecast or even get materials sometimes as a small business. Like just the smaller you are, the hurdle is higher. But anyways, that was kind of what piqued my interest. Was just looking for gear for myself for or through hiking.
Yeah, like maybe the most common small business problem is like time, materials, like and lining both of those things up with demand. And I think, yeah, probably something that all of us can relate to is like inventory versus cash flow. Just being like you can't have too much on hand, or else you just like it's either like in physical cash form or it's in physical inventory form. And it takes a bit of time to transfer between the two. And if you're too heavy on one of them, you're probably doing something wrong. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that, Dan.
And I'll say that we're really lucky, Lloyd, that you deeply understand that and, you know, work with small brands on that, because I think it's so hard sometimes as a small brand to have like net 60-day payment terms or something like that. And it's like, well, I can't sell you anything if I'm not going to get paid for 2 months. Yeah. But anywho, so for my story for Itacate, I think it was more that I was getting so much out of my relationship with the outdoors, and I wanted to make the outdoors more inclusive. And there were so many times when I would go backpacking with my girlfriends, and we literally for days would be in the backcountry and not see other people of color back there. And it was just, I mean, it's still true, you know, sometimes like I'll go with a big group of BIPOC folks and like we kind of get like the double take, which is really cool. Like I'm so proud of that. And I want to make the outdoors, especially the backcountry, a more inclusive place. And I, you know, had a lot of self-reflection of like, what are my values? What are my skills? And how can I contribute to this? And I realized like, oh, I can contribute to this movement that all these really amazing orgs like Latino Outdoors, Outdoor Afro, have been working towards for so long, and I can do it through food. Like, how cool is that? So that's where Itacate comes in.
You and Dan both went through the Embark program with Founded Outdoors, correct? In REI.
Yes, not in the same cohort, but we both went to the program.
Really cool. And that's can you give just like a brief like rundown on kind of what that is?
REI basically invested in this initiative to diversify not just the outdoors, but the outdoor industry, because in the outdoor industry, only 1% of outdoor industry founders are people of color, which is like, you know, you think on the participation side, it's pretty bad. On the industry side, it's even worse. And so the program that we went through is called Embark, and it's really like putting the power of the co-op behind folks like us and supporting us even pre-launch to get us to that launch stage, because there's just so many hurdles. And so there's a lot of mentorship and workshops and things like that. And the goal is to, you know, have us eventually like on shelf at REI.
Yeah, it's really cool. No, I think a lot of people frequently will ask me like, well, Garage Grown and REI, like, do you guys like there's no rivalry. A, I'm not sure REI knows that we exist. But B, like REI is such an amazing, like in terms of first access to the outdoors, like most people don't just stumble into Garage Grown when they're starting backpacking for the first time. Like oftentimes people's first gear, first people's comfortable touch point with the outdoors is through a place like REI. And how cool that they're able to use the resources that they have to be able to support you know, small brands in that way. And certainly shout out if anyone here is from the Founded Outdoors team. They're a great team to work with and very fun. So thanks for giving the rundown, Martha. And one side tangent was just at this event, the Blackwater event, which had it was a documentary that was recently made about 5 Black men who went fishing up in the gates of the Arctic National Park up in Alaska. And yeah, it was just a really great reminder of they were joking that they might be like the first 5 Black men to ever be on this river ever. And that the looks that they got up there were very confused about what they're doing because yeah, just the accessibility and participation in the outdoor space is something that just needs to be more of a priority. But I'll get off that soapbox. And Ray, what was your inspiration for starting Common Gear?
So I might have answered this a little prematurely, but I'd love to open by saying that the charged up chilaquiles, correct my pronunciation,
No, you got it.
is my favorite backpacking food, hands down. It's the thing that I grab. Um, so to back up a little bit, I've just spent many days, many nights in the Sierras. My mom was a Sierra Club backpacking leader, and that's where my parents met on one of her backpacking trips. And so as soon as I was walking, they had me on the trail carrying a little backpack. And so over the years, kind of learned about ultralight backpacking as these hikes became longer. And after I tore my ACL, and so I had to be, during that recovery phase, I had to be much more gentle on my joints as I was doing these longer hikes. And so switching to an ultralight pack allowed me to keep hiking. And so ever since then, I've been obsessive about trimming grams. And I started at REI, as we all probably did, getting the Osprey backpack. And then I found Garage Grown Gear and other outlets and trimmed that base weight down to around 10 pounds. And it took shaving fractions of a gram by making my own gear to get it down to like a comfortable 8 pounds, or I'm fully immersed in the experience. And shaving that weight hasn't taken anything away from the experience for me. And that's what inspired me to start making my own products, really. And then a vote of confidence from Lloyd is what turned it into a brand.
Yeah, that is the journey of going ultralight is definitely a fun and winding one. And yeah, there's no lack of options, certainly. Yeah, thanks all for sharing kind of where you all were coming from with starting your brands. And I'd love to just kind of know what some of the initial challenges were for you all, and just hear yeah, what some of those challenges were, and what are some things that have really worked for you and your brand, and what are some things that haven't. Anyone want to pick that one up first?
So I think initial challenges, and I'm sure most or all of you can relate here, is just brand awareness. Like letting people know that you exist, that your brand exists, that your product exists is definitely, I think, one of the biggest hurdles, and still something I'm trying to figure out a way to tackle best. Yeah, unless you have millions of dollars to throw on paid ads, like from the get, like you're just gonna try different things, throw them at the wall and see what sticks, or see if you can get some momentum somewhere and try to keep that going. So yeah, that's a hard one, and I'm still trying to figure that one out.
I'll echo that too. I'm a scientist by training, so like coming up with the recipes and doing spreadsheets, like all that kind of stuff comes pretty natural. But the setting up the business and like just like incorporating it and like knowing, I don't know, just like all the legal things and the business things, it's like I felt like I had to know what I needed to do next and then execute on it. So it was a lot of like stop and go rather than just executing. And that took a long time for me. But once I found communities of like startup folks in food or like outdoor industry founders, it was so much easier to reach out and have each other's support and just be able to ask a question in Slack or whatever platform and get answers right away.
For me, it was designing products that you can produce a lot of small items. I designed some of my products, like we make a ultralight repair kit, which has some Gorilla Tape wrapped around a spool, and then it has a needle kind of stowed with inside of it, and then Kevlar thread wrapped around that same spool as well. So you can repair your gear in the field. It's very small, very compact. But up until I think 3 days ago, I was wrapping tape by hand around each individual spool, and I would be up till the wee hours. Just I think I may have wrapped more Gorilla Tape around a spool by hand than anybody else, like west of the Mississippi. And it was automating that process. It finally unlocked like a new level of being able to put time into other aspects of the business. Designing things that can be produced with less of my time.
That's really funny, Ray. I'm sure like all small business owners have like some Guinness Book of World Records that they're just not aware of. Like I'm pretty sure I've individually packed like at least 50,000 orders. And like, I don't know what the world record is for that, or like, I can rip off labels like no one's business. Like I could just do it in my sleep because it's such a repetitive motion. But it is fascinating hearing you all. I mean, you do have to wear so many different hats from like, I mean, Dan, going to your point about brand awareness, like suddenly you have to know uh what marketing is, email marketing, Instagram, TikTok, like and how do you do these platforms well? How are you on enough places that have that visibility? Yeah, to Martha, to legal stuff. I mean, you don't start a business because you're an expert in how to create operating agreements or licensing deals or any of this stuff, and it forces you to kind of be a generalist when maybe you just got into business because you like making stuff. But to be able to kind of support that requires just a million different skills and hats, and kind of having to be comfortable being like mediocre to bad at a bunch of different things. But Jen, just looping you back in here. The question was just asking about some of the initial challenges of starting a business. Any ones that kind of stand out to you?
Oh, for sure. Just making sure you can still hear me. My Zoom crashed there for a second. You can still hear me? All good. Thanks. Yeah, for sure. Well, being geographically remotely located in Alaska has its own suite of challenges. We're far away from industry centers and things like that. So to source my first fabrics, like I had to go out of state and have meetings with, fabric suppliers out of state. But yeah, probably the main hurdle is like you don't really have the comprehension of how end to end everything you need to do is. And I thought I had a foundation in fabric development and I had a foundation in like selling stuff at outdoor retailer trade shows, but then there's this huge manufacturing piece in the middle that accidentally started with me wanting to be able to make our own samples and rapid product develop. Like I got the flat lock machine to be able to do the base layer seams and be able to develop the fits, and then like accidentally fell into the fact that, oh, we can make stuff here, but then wait, how do we do it? And it definitely, like the whole middle part of like having a concept and then selling it, there's like this so many pieces that have been so hard to connect those two ends. And like I had to seek tons of YouTube videos, tons of book reading, and then one of the best things was finding this woman that has a book called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Sewn Product Manufacturing, called her name's Kathleen Fasanella, and reading her book and then going to her sewing factory school in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to like learn end to end how to cut and sew sewn products in the US. So yeah, there was a huge piece in the middle that was like, I want to do this, but how to do all these things?
Well, shout out to YouTube in general for some of that, and I'm frequently really glad that I don't have to do anything with manufacturing. Shout out to all of you that have cracked that code. I heard a quote recently that I think applies to a lot of small businesses, but it's this isn't a crisis, this is your life. And I think about that as this isn't a crisis, this is just small business. Like it is kind of just a series of little mini crises, and that's kind of what small business is. But turning from challenges to other kind of topics, I'd love to hear kind of just what some of the big rewards of starting your own business have been so far, in terms of what are you guys getting out of this? What are the warm and fuzzies that keep you all motivated to run your businesses?
Getting to run a business as in line with your values as you get to run a business in line with your values, and people are super stoked to find out that you have a business that might align with their values, and then seeing the excitement and their curiosity in trying your products, and then discovering that they're actually really awesome, and then coming back again, and that kind of stuff. So definitely that for me.
I think for me, some like very similar, Jen, like definitely. And it's always somehow comes when I have like my lowest points where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. What am I even doing with my life? And then I'll get like a message or something from someone saying, like, I didn't know it was possible to see my culture reflected in the outdoors. Like, thank you so much for doing this. And like, they'll send a pictures and things like that. I'm just like, oh no, I gotta keep going. So that's what keeps me going.
That's really cool, Martha. Yeah, it is funny how those things seem to time out. Like as soon as you're like, I don't know, someone's email comes on through or some little touch point that keeps you going.
Timing is impeccable.
Yeah.
I would just say it's a great opportunity to have an outlet. My favorite thing is to do product development and to be able to do a full cycle product development in my garage for something that people are going to use and enjoy. And there's something special about the customer who's buying an ultralight product. They're not a passive participant. They're usually pretty enthusiastic about what you're offering them and the solution that you have. And so it's just there's nothing more satisfying than creating something that you're excited about and then being able to share it and know that people are using it and enjoying it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of those aspects that you all mentioned, but I definitely agree with those and get some reward out of those too. One thing that I had thought of was for me like the sense of community, and it comes in like different forms too, or different levels, because like there's like the hiking community for me, the hiking community and through hiking community, and then now like having a business, it's like the community of the people that like want to use my gear, and then also connecting with the community of other brand owners like yourselves is just like another really cool way that I didn't expect to find like reward from, and like all the support and like feeling that I can reach out to like so many people and they're like willing to help, and like, oh, this worked for me, or I use this thing for these stickers or whatever like random thing it is, you know. Yeah, so I think like just the different communities and human interactions has been pretty rewarding for me. So.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, I haven't really been a part of any other industries, but this particular our particular ecosystem of the outdoor space is pretty incredible in terms of just community and collaboration and conversation. I think yeah, I imagine it's got to be fairly unique, especially with its just proximity to the two customers. Like there isn't some big disconnect between all of us and the people who buy our products. I think that's such a neat thing that just can't be said about bigger brands or other industries to the same extent. There's just yeah, there's it's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, you can pop onto a webinar like this and you know, see all of you here in you know, your living rooms or your shops or in my basement, you know. But yeah.
Like when people share pictures of things that you made in places that you've never been before, it's like, whoa, that's like I've never been to the Arctic Circle, but I made these chilaquiles and they're out there. I don't know if you guys have that same experience.
Kind of related. I was at AT Days Festival this weekend. It was my first time there, and someone came up and we were chatting, and he's like, oh, so you did it? You started the company? And I was like, what? And I didn't recognize him. It was someone I had hiked with in 2021, and I didn't even know I had verbalized my idea of starting an outdoor company, but apparently I had in front of him, and he was like there on the East Coast now, like that I didn't even know he was going to be attending. And it was just like, yeah, those kinds of connections and interactions. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think that is one of the coolest things about AT Days, PCT Days, so many of these events that have, yeah, such close connections of, yeah, I don't know, like we're all enthusiasts first who got into this because we like spending time outside. And so, you know, like I'd be at PCT Days if I wasn't there to do, you know, business related stuff. And that's pretty fun. Okay, so I know we've got a couple of other cottage founders that are on this call or on this webinar at the moment. But if you guys had to give any, you know, singular or couple little pieces of advice for someone who was thinking about a cottage brand, starting a cottage brand, what pieces of advice would you give folks?
So like three quick little things that popped to mind for me were you won't know if you don't try. So if you're thinking of doing something, if you don't try, then you for sure will fail, but you have to try. Next was, unless you have the secret recipe to only sell directly to the customer, if you're going to be selling through wholesalers, then you need a plan for pricing for wholesale. And that's like something that I've had to kind of learn and figure out along the way. And then lastly, don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions and ask for help, because I found that so many times people are willing to help, and whether they're just sharing their experience or their knowledge or resources, like I think oftentimes people will help you if they can help you. And so yeah, if you ever have a question or something, like reach out to me, like email me, DM me, like whatever. I'll share whatever knowledge that's been shared with me, you know.
I think I'm next. I might be a little off, but I think I might be the youngest brand here, so take what I say with a grain of salt, because it's not time tested the way that the rest of this advice probably is. But my little tidbit would be to do things that aren't necessarily sustainable at scale or profitable at scale, to get the ball rolling. Like earlier, I was talking about how I make these repair kits as one of the items through Common Gear, and I it was not, if I made an Excel sheet to see how much money I was making myself per hour, it was not. I don't know if I was giving myself minimum wage, but those are the things that you'll learn to automate or fine tune with scale, or it'll inspire you to make that next item, which is able to be produced in a way that's a little more marketable. But I think a big mistake would be to totally throw out an idea because it doesn't seem like it'll work, or be profitable at scale.
Yeah, I'll say don't wait for perfection, or don't, work on things until they're absolutely perfect before you launch. Like, you can always iterate, right? Like, that's what I keep telling myself. I came from working on really big brands where you really did have to have that like perfection, but you also had like so many resources. And here I am as a very small team. So that finding your community, I think like having people to lean on, and especially like other founders, has been really helpful for me. And finally, finding and working on something that you're passionate about, because when the going gets tough, like it's hard to work on something that you're not really driven by.
I 100% agree that it needs to be something that you're deeply passionate about, and hopefully that's what's inspiring you to get into it in the first place. I can often work a really long day on this stuff and be so excited when I'm falling asleep at night to like wake up again, like be annoyed that I have to sleep because I won't be able to have another full long day the next day. Like literally like on a kid on, insert call it like Christmas Eve or whatever. So excited every day to work on it. But that's not my advice. My advice is that everyone is just a human being doing the best they can, including you. But like the buyers at Garage Grown Gear, or the reviewers at Treeline Review, the suppliers that are going to sell you fabrics, the customers that are going to hopefully try your products for the first time or be the loyal customers that buy a bunch of times. Everyone is just a human being doing the best they can. And you can talk to them and be honest and straightforward with them about where you are. And that can hopefully go a long way. And yeah, I agree with all the other points, like planning for the pricing and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, mostly just being honest and clear as well. We had to face a time where we hadn't priced our things correctly at all. I priced them to try to be competitive with the big guys and this, that, and the other. And we had to drastically increase the prices on our gear, or they couldn't or shouldn't even exist. And that was absent from even just wholesaling, just like for them to exist. And we just recorded a couple of videos of me sitting here in the workshop, like speaking into the camera to be like, hey guys, shop now for the next month because our prices are going up in a month. And we got, a lot of people purchased on that reverse sale, but also they you got positive comments of reinforcement to keep going. And just also people appreciated the heads up and the honesty behind the situation. So yeah, we're all just doing the best we can.
That's a lot of really good advice. I'm going to ask myself that same question as well, and just drop two little nuggets that I always kind of stand with. Which is one of them is just if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. If you're not really excited about something, don't do it. If you're not if you're not all in, find something else that you're all in about and tackle that. And this kind of goes to a couple points that Martha and Jem are both saying too, which is just if you came here expecting perfection, I encourage you to change your expectations. Because I don't know, I don't expect anyone to be perfect. I certainly don't expect myself to be perfect. You know, you can't grow or learn if you're not making some mistakes along the way. So lots of good nuggets of advice there. I've just got one more question for you guys before we turn it on over to Liz for some if there's any questions from the audience. So if you guys have questions that you'd like to ask our panelists here, feel free to start dropping them in there. But yeah, I'd love just to kind of do a quick whip around on what you're looking forward to as your brand continues to grow. Maybe, yeah, let's limit that to something you're looking forward to with your brand for the rest of this year.
I'm really looking forward to releasing a few new products. In my downtime, I've been able to do a bit of product development, and I think we'll be releasing about a product a month for the next 5 to 6 months. Everything trimming around 30 to 40% of the weight of the current market standards in that space. So really kind of in line with our brand ethos. I'm really excited to be releasing those and seeing how they're taken. And I will popcorn over to Daniel.
Well, more broadly speaking, as I'm things I look forward to as my brand grows would be spending more time testing gear out in the wild, just being out on the trail, testing things out, and spending less time cutting fabric on my living room floor.
I think for me, I've been spending a lot of time in the last few months, like figuring out how to scale the business a little bit, because we're not meeting that demand without it taking even more of like my physical time, you know, because I don't think it's sustainable for a brand to have to, in the long term, depend on one person. And so trying to figure that out, like what does that look like, and what does the future like of the next step look like for us?
I think right now the most exciting thing on the horizon might be PCT days. We're going to launch a new product there, and we'll get to see all of you, I hope, or many of you, I hope, and some other new friends we've been making. I feel like we're gaining a lot of momentum in the thru hiking realm, and it's really fun to see that growth there. So for some reason, I can't think of anything else right now but being super excited to see this group in person.
Thanks all. Yeah, really appreciate all the thoughtful responses, and it's always just great to have a bunch of brand founders in one space who you know, there's a lot of commonality in terms of challenges and rewards, but a lot of solidarity in the fact that yeah, to some extent, you know, we're kind of all going through similar things together. So yeah, just appreciate all you very much for being here, and I'm gonna stop talking and pass things over to Liz.
Thank you so much, Lloyd. That was such a great moderation, and I loved everyone's questions. I'm actually walking away from this myself as Treeline Review is also a small business, feeling really inspired hearing everyone's stories. So thank you so much for that. All right, we've got some questions. Ben asks, if you have an idea for something you're pretty sure doesn't exist, do you research it, do a patent search, just go ahead and make it? Interesting question. And I can see, especially for something that maybe Ray is working on, that's really relevant for some items, but I'm sure it also is true for all of what you're working on to some extent. What are your thoughts?
I would say that maybe the last thing I ever do is a patent search. I don't know if I should switch that order. But I don't think there are too many patents that conflict with ultralight product designs. I, I I mean, the first thing I do is I see if something exists already, and then I see if it's like inefficient in some way or has a bad UX or is just really heavy. Like there's a lot of things at REI that weigh 4 times as much as they really need to. And so you can sort of take a first principles approach and understand what will somebody actually need this for? Does it have excessive features? Can it be used for multiple purposes? Can we turn a single like multiple items into a single item? That's sort of the mind mapping process that I take.
And I'll say just because something already exists doesn't mean that there isn't space for more of that in the marketplace. So for example, there are other brands that make chilaquiles, but like that's, like we have ours and there can be multiple, or there can be, the way I think about it too, like there's another brand that also makes Mexican backpacking food, and at first I was like, oh man, they're gonna beat me to it, or like this and that. But I think changing that mindset to be like, no, actually there haven't been any of us in the past. Like there can be two of us, there can be five of us. So I think it's the way you look at things too.
Right. How many brands are making mac and cheese and spaghetti?
I think I'll reference something that Marta probably heard in our Embark program cohorts was that you can do scrappy testing. And so that means like maybe you can make like a test version of the thing. It doesn't have to be like final product quality. Like we said, like you don't have to have perfection in this thing that you're just testing out or piloting out, but you can maybe make a version of that thing and then show it to people, show it to friends, put it out there and get feedback, and then like just iterate on that. So yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect out of the box, because it probably won't be. Yeah. So yeah, try it, test it, make versions of it if you can. And it doesn't have to be ideal, but like, use a cheaper material if you need to, or whatever, and then go from there.
I think that in terms of patents and things like that, it depends on what the type of product is. But in the sewn goods, soft products like we make, my ever wanting to pursue some more future perfect state would not probably work well with slowing down and having a patent on something that I had to keep making the way it was. So I don't know, it might be at odds with like the creative, iterative process. But that being said, if it's something like a specific tooled component of, a special kind of attachment point on a backpack or something that is patentable, that could be a whole different thing. It's just not the realm that I'm in.
Thank you all so much. All right, our next question is from Lucas. Did your businesses all grow out of specific product ideas, or did any of you want to start a business first and then come up with product ideas later?
I was working at a big company, and I was part of the innovation team there, and I had that itch to like, I was just always curious, and like I was kind of an entrepreneur within that organization, and I had an itch to do this or to start something. And when the pandemic started and I had time to like reflect on my life and where it was headed, I realized like this isn't where I want to be, but like what are my skills and what are my values? And I remember reading an article from the Seattle Times ranking the best backpacking meals. And the winner, they said, okay, this is the winner, not because it's the tastiest, but because these are flavors that are nostalgic to us. And that's something that's really comforting in when you're doing something hard, right? Because, backpacking through hiking, it's a type 2 fun activity. And that blew my mind. And I thought like, wait, like people have a nostalgic connection to the stuff that's on shelf now. Like, why can't we have that? Because I just thought, like, oh, beef stroganoff is just what you eat when you're out backpacking. Like I just kind of took it for what it was. And then that kind of like got my wheels turning and went there. So then it was a lot of things at the same time. It's kind of a perfect storm.
This is a good segue for another question. How do you balance the desire to produce sustainable and ethically produced products with the need to scale your business? And it looks like that probably appeals to a lot of you.
I think that that's a tough question for sure. And I think that part of leaning into the cottage thing is like, this is at our core, this is who we are, is the sustainable materials and the way we produce things. and that setting outlandish growth plans is not personally my goal, and just something we've recently really carefully looked at and being like, no, what's sustainable growth for how we produce it, how we source things. Again, geographically, we're located in Alaska, and that sort of thing. So I'm not really answering how to do it. I guess I'm saying, like, just grow like this instead of like this. It's kind of okay as a cottage brand to do that and try to make sure that you've got, you know, you're looking at making sure that you're making your product sustainably with, you know, a net profit at the end before you try to like scale up too, because those problems are just going to get worse if you try to grow quickly. And often cottage brands are bootstrapped or independently funded or debt like a bank loan kind of funding. So definitely really stay true to your values, and your growth can't be as rapid.
I think that's a really good question. And I think one that companies, depending on kind of what their values and ethos are, kind of struggle with on different levels. But I think for some brands, it's very much baked into the very core of their identity, where for others, it's a I wouldn't say an afterthought, but something where at a certain level, I think there's some brands where you're just trying to struggle to get by, and thoughts of sustainability are things that you're kind of working in progress. I know for us at Garage Grown, you know, as a small business owner, like, you have millions of different opportunities to take sustainability actions. You know, we look at it from Garage Grown very frequently of like, we ship things around the world. That is like, you know, planes are not great for the environment. So what can we do with that? Like, that is something that we have as baked in our business model. But, you know, this year we've switched to compostable packaging, which was a big deal. Like, for us, like, we'll take probably 60,000 plastic mailers out of circulation this year and use compostable packaging. You know, we stopped sending our tiny little toothbrushes because it's just like a lot of extra plastic in. And I think for a lot of that sustainability is that it needs to be looked at as a journey, not as something that you can expect yourself to be perfect at right away. And just like so many things, if that's you know, if that's DEI, if that's sustainability, if that's you know, there's always so many things as a small business, like paying yourself equitably, paying others equitably, that are kind of all areas of focus. So I think a lot of that is kind of how to be able to hold sustainability in a spot where it's balancing with all the other priorities.
I think it's really challenging because, like, those are basically my differentiators right now. Or I use eco-friendly fabrics, and everything's made in the USA by me. But it's so hard when, like, the fabric I use is more expensive per yard because it's made from recycled material, and I use recycled packaging to ship my things, and I use recycled hang tags, and like, all of those things add cost. But I'm currently wrestling with the concept of, like, is that communicated to my community as customers, and does that resonate enough where they're like, yes, I'm willing to pay for your product that is hard to compete when there's things made that are made of non-recycled materials that are made abroad and can be purchased for a fraction of the price. So it's like, are you hitting the right audience? Like, do they resonate with the same things that resonate with me? Like, with your company values, like, this is why I started this company, because I want to do things a certain way. And, like, are you able to communicate that in a way that resonates with your audience is a challenge. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find that balance.
And the communication piece too is hard sometimes when you're, like, as a small brand trying to do so many things, like trying to convey all of it. It's like, whoa, that was like way too much, right? And like what Lloyd said about baking things in, like, so we are not using any meat in any of our products. So that's something that I'm not compromising on. But there's certain things that are goals for us that, like, that's what I want to graduate to once we start becoming profitable and whatnot, right? Because there's the cost aspect of it too. And I think sometimes a lot of consumers are very, like, informed now, but sometimes it's hard to convey that like when you're ordering material in like the minimum order quantities, it's so much more expensive per unit than if you were, ordering like 10,000 pouches or whatnot. So
I think this is a really great segue for something that I'm sure that all of you are dealing with is when you're making outdoor products, how do you balance your own intuition with the feedback you get from users? User reviews. I know Garage Grown Gear is really good about sending emails as soon as you order something saying, give us some star ratings. What are some of your experiences and thoughts on the designing and balancing those stars, chasing the stars with what you find is right and what is manageable and doable and sustainable?
I think I recently realized that I can't be in love with my own product if I was just solving my own problem. Maybe that isn't solving the exact problem for my community. And so I think listening to feedback and seeking out feedback and doing customer interviews and asking people like, what is the pain point? What are you doing to solve it now? And like, what did you wish existed that would solve it for you? I think because that ultimately like that's your audience, that's your community. Like I can make gear for myself that I love like all day long. Like I can make a cool wind jacket and I can make a cool sleeping quilt and stuff, but like, maybe it works for me, but not for everybody else. So I've had to learn to switch away from listening to myself as much and seeking out feedback from others.
Definitely surveys and reaching out and getting research. Like when we developed the 2 fit options, it was definitely essential to get feedback from people. And we move kind of slowly, not on the seasonal, fashion or apparel trends or cycles like the bigger brands move. So we try to like be very serious about changes we make in our products that we're going to incorporate for a long time. So yeah, gathering, I think you need to hear the feedback, listen to all the requests, gather, and then you need to like have it there, put it aside, and then be alone in your own headspace, like in the design and the product development stage, and make sure that it makes sense to you because you're the one that needs to be passionate about it, like Martha said, to like bring it to exist into this world. And then it'll be validated whether people do or do not want it. So it's kind of like gather, like they're multi-step processes that all come together to form what you do choose to put forward. And then, the feedback will be if anyone wants to buy it or use it on their adventures.
Well, our last question is from Laura, and I'm actually going to tie it in with a question that I have myself. So Laura's question is, have you ever or would you ever consider partnering with other cottage brands to help each other create new products in your area of expertise? And sort of my related question is, when you were starting your company or growing your company, how did you find a community of either similar sewers or entrepreneurs, cottage industry folks? How did you find sort of your people? And I know that Dan and Marta talked a little bit about the REI incubator and how helpful that was. What other sort of ways were you able to find community? And it sounds like someone might be interested in having you be part of their community as they grow as a cottage brand.
I've found community just through Instagram. It seems like the cottage brands, you don't use LinkedIn. Instagram is kind of the vessel with which you reach out to each other and communicate and find collaborations. I'm working on a product with another cottage brand. I've partnered with a separate cottage brand to make some sewn products that are an aspect of something we're releasing soon. And that community and collaboration is invaluable for filling voids in your skill set. I'm not someone who knows how to sew. I could maybe get by like repairing something, but I can't make a sewn product. And so finding people within the space who understand the space the same way you do, to fill those voids, opens your horizon to producing just products that solve like very niche and desirable issues.
as far as community, I think I started just on Reddit, like the Reddit, like the entrepreneur subreddit, and I was like, how do you do the math? And then from there, like the REI community the Founded Outdoors community has been really great. Anyone starting an outdoor brand should get on there. They're really helpful. And then from the food aspect, there's a community called Startup CPG, and it's all these like startup food brands. And there's this Slack channel with tons of people and like tons of resources. So kind of like like every aspect of my business, I have like a different community to reach out to.
Community and collaboration. Yeah, the really fun thing that ended up that we kind of put together here with another cottage brand, Heather's Choice, that you guys also carry on Garage Grown Gear. They're also based here in Anchorage, Alaska, and we got together and decided to form a little group that is Alaska-based, woman-owned outdoor product company that we meet up quarterly and talk about successes, challenges, you know, what's our goal for the next quarter, da, da, da. And it's turned into be this like absolutely lovely evening that I cherish every quarter. So that's like really our really tiny community that I just love, and we created it ourselves. Founded Outdoors online is awesome. And then we pitched to Title IX's Pitch Fest, based in California. They do like an emerging women-led gear brand, like mostly clothing, but some other product types. They do a Pitch Fest annually, so we pitched there in 2021 and got connected with a lot of women-owned outdoor businesses that we've definitely kept in touch with and done a lot of collaborative like marketing campaigns and stuff with together. Also in collaboration, it's really interesting, the businesses that might have a similar target customer to you, but a different type of business, like our small group of businesses here in Alaska, we've collaborated on like getting marketing assets together, which we held like a big photo shoot, and we all brought our own products as the props and the clothes and whatever in the photo shoot, and had, you know, literally, we need a lot of different body sizes and shapes to show our products. So we ended up having like community sourced outdoor recreational people show up and had all of our friends who have businesses bring their products, and generated like, we had 45 people involved in this photo shoot that generated like photos for all of us to use. So like we've found fun, unique ways to collaborate that's not necessarily just on the product level, but on other aspects of the business as well. And then also it's just like really heartwarming and wonderful, and definitely like community building with the customers and other business owners.
Yeah, I'll just echo real quick. Reddit, like there's a subreddit for everything, like sewing, make your own gear, DIY, all that stuff. Instagram too. That reminded me, Ray. One of my friends I'm going camping with this weekend was someone that reached out to me on Instagram who has a professional sewing business here near Atlanta. And like he was like, hey, like that's cool, you sew and you like backpacking gear, and like we ended up meeting for coffee, and like I got to see his workshop, and I mean he's got like a full-blown professional sewing business. It's so super cool if you're into sewing machines and stuff. So anyways, yeah, converting those internet friendships and connections into real life interactions is pretty cool too. So yeah, don't forget to talk to people in real life.
Thank you so much. I'm hearing a lot of Instagram, Reddit, not LinkedIn, and that there's different communities for different things, and seeking out the one community to answer all of your questions maybe isn't the best strategy, but instead really lean into different areas of expertise. Thank you all so much for coming. Lloyd, do you want to give some parting words to our cottage brands here?
No, just very appreciative of all of you and for everyone for joining us on this webinar. We'll have some more here in the future featuring some other wonderful founders. But you know, I can pretty much speak for everyone that if you're interested in learning more, you know, all of these people would appreciate your business. I don't think any of them would not accept it. Just really appreciative for everyone's time tonight, and that supporting small businesses means that you're supporting real people, real aspirations, real dreams, real mortgages, real everythings. So you know, places like all of our businesses exist because people choose to spend their money intentionally. So if you want to be able to support people, spend that money intentionally. So thanks everyone.